Hello, pale blue eye. Pale blue eye.
Ah. Hi.
What's up?
Welcome to the low ceiling.
Why?
Why? Because we're talking about something very cool today.
Yeah?
Something that a lot of people were like, all right, we'll see what this is about when it came out on Netflix.
We're talking about a classic low ceiling film where everyone was like, aight.
Everyone's like, aight. It is, as the kids say, mid. Well, by ratings at least.
Yeah, it was taken midly. Let's put it that way.
It was taken midly.
I like this movie actually. We watched it
Absolutely agreed.
in Spain together.
Yeah.
And we were like, aight.
And then I watched it a second time with you last weekend and loved it even more.
Yeah, I like this movie actually.
Yeah.
This The Pale Blue Eye, a Scott Cooper joint. Scott Cooper, a director who I want to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
I've always thought that I said this the first time we watched it. Scott Cooper is such a good director.
100%.
But he's never really made a very good movie.
No.
Unfortunately, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's because every movie he's done has been kind of different in genres so far.
Yeah.
Each one is like its own thing. It's never like all drama. He's done a horror. This one is a gothic thriller. He's done a drama with hostiles.
This movie is From Hell meets Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
and yet also by quality, it's right in the middle of those films.
Correct.
Too. Much better than From Hell.
Yeah.
Much worse than Sleepy Hollow.
Yes.
It's right in the middle there.
It doesn't
it's still
have
a good
the
movie though.
Cult following that the other two movies have got
Oh
over
yeah,
time.
it doesn't have a cult following that Netflix movies are so famous for attracting. Yeah,
Right.
Netflix always is. They're like, oh, this auteur is making a thing. Let's make sure everyone loves it. I mean,
I don't think it'll get it over time as well. That's what
no,
I'm saying.
no,
Like,
that's
it's not,
I don't. That's the that was the whole joke.
Okay, all right.
But like, this movie doesn't really look like a Netflix movie.
No.
Which surprised me because I looked it up while we were watching it. I was like, I feel like Netflix bought this movie after it was made, but they didn't. They actually financed it.
Yeah.
They financed it, and you'd think it would end up looking like some Netflix mid shit, but it's such a well-made film.
They asked Scott Cooper in certain interviews, like, did he always want it to be a Netflix film when he was making it or when he kind of finished doing it? And then he realized that of all the asks around town, that Netflix made an offer that they simply could not turn down.
Yeah, that's
and so
I think that's
usually
typical.
the case.
Yeah.
And but Scott Cooper, he wanted like a period piece look for this film. He said he wanted it to be black and white with color. It shouldn't be black and white, but like as close as possible with that kind of like inky look to it. And I mean, it explains why so much of the cast looks like English actors, even though it's set in, I want to say, pre-Civil War America.
Oh no, 1830. Okay,
So
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go fuck myself then.
God.
Instead of
It's like
talking.
I read about it or something.
Fuck. All right.
So, and then even the location style, right? He wanted it to be kind of that blue-green, cool, gothic.
He wanted it to be pale blue.
He wanted it to be pale blue.
Yeah. He wanted the whole eye.
It was sick.
He wanted the whole eye.
I mean, it's like so beautifully shot too. I know we'll talk about like the plot and the actors and the directors and everything, but just the look of it is immediately gripping.
Before talking about this, so this is a really new film that like no one has seen. I know one other person who watched this movie. It's a fictional film about Edgar Allan Poe and another guy solving a murder mystery. Edgar Allan Poe there's a fictionalized version of a young Edgar Allan Poe when he was in the army.
Yeah.
Who is a young poet who's not yet the Edgar Allan Poe we know.
Right. But the stuff about him is kind of true, at least like him being in the army, him being from Virginia. Like, hard times for a writer when they have to join the fucking army.
I mean, it would be crazy if it wasn't, if they just made up Edgar Allan Poe's background. And it was like, Edgar Allan Poe, he worked in a store.
Poe the real guy, and then also Poe as a fictional character, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's cool. It's a murder mystery. It's a real whodunit. And then at one point, Christian Bale is the detective in charge.
Christian Bale is the main character. Really.
Yeah.
Poe is a supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's set in this like backdrop of upstate New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. But Scott Cooper, though, like most of his movies are just fine. And it's like frustrating because he's such a good filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I've seen pretty much all his movies, except I haven't seen Crazy Heart, which was nominated for a couple Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a who's in fucking Crazy Heart? I know Maggie Gyllenhaal is in it, and who's the fucking the dude from Big Lebowski? Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges.
So I know, and it's like about a musician. So I know that the entire. Do you want to hear my impression of the movie Crazy Heart?
Go on.
Sing these songs, but I gotta drink.
That's also your impression of Bradley Cooper. So.
I drink a lot too. So sing these songs are true.
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's like, that's so good, Jeff.
Why did you
that's it. That is a
candy.
spot on impression of Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, dude.
And she like claps like haphazardly. Jeff, you're so good at singing, Jeff. And then Jeff Bridges is like, oh, I'm so good at fucking. My heart is crazy.
I saw him take another look at it.
My heart is fucking crazy. And big inspiration for, yes, Bradley Cooper in Star is Born.
Of course.
Yeah, he's like, oh, my heart's crazy too. Yeah, I gotta say, but
Lady Gaga's like, that's so crazy good, Bradley.
But she's like, oh my God, but Bradley, have you ever considered that I can sing? She sounds a lot like Maggie Gyllenhaal too.
Yeah, shocking.
And, they both sound like cheerleaders.
And Scott Cooper directed both the films. No, just kidding.
Yeah. The original title of A Star Is Born was a Crazy Heart Is Born.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a mumbly singer country music.
Sure.
A movie that I've never seen. I'm totally being a dick. I've never seen it. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like his only movie that's like critically acclaimed, I think. Mm-hmm. And then he's just made a run of movies that are so like the reception of them is so mixed at all times.
Yeah.
Mixed to like bad. And so like he made Out of the Furnace, which I think is like probably his best movie.
Isn't Hostiles the best movie?
I'll get to that. I kind of think Hostiles is, but Out of the Furnace is like good. But I do remember specific parts of that movie. I've only seen it once, and it was a long time ago. But I do remember specific parts of it being like, well, this isn't like great, but it's an interesting film. And then Black Mass is apparently just very bad. Like just straight up bad.
J-Deb.
Yeah. And then Hostiles was surprisingly good. Like I liked Hostiles quite a lot. Mm-hmm. And then Antlers, which you just watched.
For the first time, yeah.
Antlers, like Morbius, was one of those movies where like, man, they've been trying to release this for like 5 years.
Yeah,
and
dude.
It finally came out in like 2021. And I think it was a 2019 film. And Antlers is so okay, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's still like moody and it's cool and it does the job that a thriller would. Because he's a good
director.
He's a good director, man. Look, it's hard to take your eyes off because everything looks so atmospheric and beautiful.
Yes.
And if you're into that, you'll stick through the whole film.
Yeah, he's like technically a good director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pale Blue Eye, I wish it had and the ability to see it at the cinemas or something.
Yeah, we did. We just missed it.
Ugh.
I had thought this movie was released in like late 2023. It was actually late 2022. This is how bad it. And this is how bad like Netflix is. It kind of unless you have Netflix and you're on the front page, you're kind of like it's a little bit bad at this, right? Because they don't care. They don't really care if people see it. That's the thing.
No, they're like
they do.
It's got Batman. It had like the widest audience opening week of any movie that was released on Netflix, where almost everybody kind of saw it and then immediately forgot about it. Or quit halfway.
That's the Netflix story though, right? And also it was probably like the biggest movie released on that day. It was released on the 22nd of December, so it might have been the biggest movie released on Netflix of that week. Right?
It does feel like a Christmas film. I tell you that.
Until like the next, murder mystery documentary comes out, then everyone's just like,
well, we're not getting a fucking Mindhunter anytime soon or ever.
No.
So
we've really bitched about Netflix the last 2 episodes.
Get it together, Netflix.
For good reason though. It's crap.
Yeah.
It sucks and
that's why
stupid.
I had to go the Paramount route. Woo,
Paramount Plus. I'm starting to think Paramount Plus might be better than Netflix. Honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'll never forgive.
You'll
Paramount
never say
for it. Yeah. But that's why we're here supporting a Netflix film, is because we hate Netflix a lot.
I'm only supporting Scott Cooper because, man, what a guy.
I root for him.
I really do.
And I will say, besides Hostiles, this might be one of his better films.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fun to see him or hear him kind of talk about Robert Duvall, who was also a producer on
right.
this film,
And who showed up?
who shows up looking fucking fabulous for 92. My God.
Yeah.
There's this little interview that Scott Cooper did where he's like, well, Duvall, I know you guys know him as like a co-producer on these things and other films that I've done, but he's basically a second father to me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He got married at Duvall's estate.
Oh, wow.
They go so far back, and Duvall's like so invested in Scott Cooper's career and his growth as a person that
Yeah.
he was like, when he didn't do any movies for a long time, right? You told me that you haven't seen Duvall in
I thought Widows was his retirement.
like most recent thing, which was already like fairly
Which,
old.
as we talked about in the Academy Award podcast, one of my favorite performances
Hell
for
yeah.
Duvall. Is his estate called the Red-Headed Paperweight Estate?
Oh God! Why God? I saw why you were grinning at me this whole time. You're like, I haven't think.
I was gonna make a much worse joke and ask if his estate was called the "Fuck you, you fucking fuck" estate, but it's not.
Get fucking married. Oh, it's so cute because he read the script, and then he's like, "Can I be in it?"
Oh, that's nice.
And it was so nice, and he wanted to be the Jean Pepé role of this like witchy guy, and
yeah,
I didn't even recognize Robert Duvall, dude, until like much later in the
no.
scene when you kind of catch him from a distance, and it's like, is that?
he also he's putting on like a much chiller, less Duvall-esque voice in this, I think.
Oh.
So did Robert Duvall, as a wedding gift, give Scott Cooper the book with the merkin on it?
It's pretty on brand for
Because
that
that would be
friendship.
a pretty sick piece of memorabilia to have from this film, is the book covered in a pubic wig. That has all the witch burning in it. Yeah.
They all just like hold it and embrace it and stand.
They
holding
rub
it.
their face against the pubic wig of the merkin
to marriage.
book. Yeah. Oh, the 1800s.
Don't get any ideas for ours, babe. All right, that's all I'm saying. And so Scott Cooper has like this cute relationship with Robert Duvall, producer, second father, and he has a similarly cute relationship with Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale loves working with him.
My
clearly.
God. So they're obviously, he says they're friends, and like I see Christian probably more than anyone else, not even his family.
It's interesting.
It's fair because when you go off to these locations, and again, Scott Cooper's like, the reason I make every film different is because I know I'm going to be away from my family for like 4 to 6 months every year.
Yeah.
And I better fucking know that this thing's going to be a good thing that I want to be invested in, and not just like a similar type of film that I've already done. So when I take on a brand new project that's so vastly different, I justify to myself that I'm going away, and so I better make it worth their while.
One of his like strengths as a filmmaker is like, and this is obviously not just him doing it, but like his movies are so specific to the place that they're in. Like, okay, Out of the Furnace is very specifically like Pennsylvania, like not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then like Black Mass, I haven't seen, and Crazy Heart is so specifically a bottle of whiskey. It's literally inside Jeff Bridges' Crazy Heart.
Yeah.
And but then
so is this Pale Blue Eyes also Western Pennsylvania?
No, it's New York, upstate New York.
Oh.
But it is just in one area, right? It's like this college and a surrounding. And so it's like this one specific area that all kind of looks the same. Hostiles is like they travel across like basically the same kind of expanse, so it's very similar. And then Antlers is in Hope, even though it's supposed to be Portland or Oregon or whatever. It was filmed in Hope.
Wow.
And like that's like a tiny little town where also what's it called? First Blood was filmed in Hope as well. So people will recognize it from that. But it's like this tiny little rainy piss town in like that's just like a fucking gas station and a Schmitty's on the side of the highway.
Jesus.
But yeah, and it's like he's really good at having that very specific place, but he also goes to that place to make the thing. Right?
It's on location.
He's really good about that.
He talked about it like, well, Pale Blue Eyes, it looks incredibly cold and snowy, and at first I thought it was CG. Maybe it's just like fake dust or whatever. I'm sure some part of it was, but there's an interview where he's like, it was -8 and like -8 to -4, and it was terribly difficult to film. And at the time there was an Omicron outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
But all the actors had to come out to that part, I don't know if New York or wherever it was, and it was just to keep them healthy was like a whole fucking task. Because Scott Cooper, like the director, producer, they're all decked out in their Arc'teryx jackets. And then just Christian Bale is like, I got my hat on.
Yeah.
I got my 80s look.
Kristen Bale was like, I gained 50 pounds last week for this role.
Yeah, yeah, I got jacked for this.
Of fat. I gained 50 pounds of blubber to keep me warm. Yeah.
I'm up to at least 80
And Harry
pounds
Melling
now.
is like, I'm very cold.
Oh,
as
God.
Edgar Allan Poe.
And it's just all these weirdly inaccessible shooting locations that are, torturous looking for the actor.
Yeah.
But it feels so nice for me to witness it from the cozy.
It is
comfort of
nice.
my
It's
home.
beautiful, and like he's so good at. I think his like biggest strength is like accessing that place and making it look like really good. Even okay, so I was debating this, and maybe you know the answer, but even if you don't, it doesn't matter. At the end, and yeah, I know it's a newish movie. We're gonna spoil it. In the end, there's a key scene with Christian Bale standing on this cliff edge,
Yes.
where his daughter had jumped off and committed suicide.
Yeah.
And when you turn around, obviously, like I don't think that cliff exists, but like I think the backdrop is probably it does. Okay.
That is a real cliff, and that is a quote unquote cliffhanger where you don't know whether.
Okay, so but when you turn around, is that real? That's what I wondered.
Right.
So like, cause if you look at that scene, it's very cool. The cliff edge is like beautiful, and it's over this lake and stuff. But then when you turn around, it's like against this forest, and it's so picturesque and really nice. And I was debating, it didn't look fake, but even if it was an incredibly good. We were talking about
done.
CGI environments last time.
Yeah.
I don't think it was fully CGI, but certainly parts of it may have been. Or it might be real, in which case I was like, whoever like location scouted this shit is unreal. Like it's such a fucking good place. And there's a specific shot that I thought it's like so stunning in like he's so good at getting these like very like these moments in the film where you're just like, well, that just like it's such an amazing shot.
Yeah.
And this is what frustrates me about his movies, because not a lot of them are that satisfying.
I know,
but he's so good at making these evocative scenes. Like when they're looking for the second guy who dies, and there's this like tracking shot along the riverbank, and all of these soldiers, they're all dressed in like pale blue, and they pop out from the rocks and stuff, and it is such a fucking cool looking shot. But yeah, like the problem I have with a lot of the movies is they're not as emotionally satisfying, I think, in a story sense.
What was the most recent one where we were like, it's not even fucking real? The Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, where it's like, just pick a place in New York and do it.
Yeah.
And you have like $300 million to make that, and it's still so unsatisfying. Meanwhile,
and like
something like this
looks so, and this movie
third of the budget.
This movie was like $90 million.
Yeah, come on.
Which is, not nothing, but
you could tell that so much effort went into like that 90 million.
Well, it feels real.
It feels
real.
so real.
Yeah. And
some of that location is real too. Like, the place where they're congregating, and it looks like a museum kind of in the forest. It's like a dome structure. I don't know if you
like where Robert Duvall is.
Yeah, where Robert Duvall is.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that is used to be called the Penguin Court because they had actual penguins there.
Hell yeah.
And so, when you look close, you see them in blue uniforms waddling. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, if you look close, most of the extras in this film are penguins, which I gotta say, like, I don't support animal cruelty and stuff. They were paid.
Only if it's cool looking.
They were paid a fair wage. They were paid the equivalent in frozen fish as the wages of a union extra. Okay.
Yeah, you just look into their eyes.
Yeah.
Cute. Cuties. But I mean, the guy, what's his name? Masa, I think, the cinematographer for this film.
Yeah, he's the guy I don't know.
I don't know him, but for someone to tell someone, look, I want it to be as close to black and white as possible, but it's got to be color. I wouldn't know what to do with that information.
Well, you're not a film director.
But like you can tell that this goes beyond like film direction knowledge. Like he obviously went back and looked at like oil paintings, or like he looked at like a Frederick or some German expressionist stuff.
One of the things that like I have a hard time like really, there's lots of filmmakers who I think are like really talented, but end up making movies that I'm just kind of like, well, certainly you can do better than this. I have a hard time really harshly criticizing Scott Cooper, despite the dissatisfaction I find with a lot of his movies, because like he's just so detailed, and he gets so many things that are like, well, this is still good.
Totally.
Like this, even the production design in the houses and stuff, like, and the lighting, like he doesn't ever miss a step, I think. But
he's like such a grade A student.
It's all in the story. That's the problem that I have. But at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like, yeah, but man, he can make a movie. Like,
I know.
I don't know.
He feels
man.
very like someone who's just excelling in class, like very by the book.
Yeah.
But there's that one X factor that you need to have the audience walk away with, oh, wow. I
wonder,
just witnessed that. But you never get it from the plot.
He would be an amazing director to see get like just like a hot script. Like a script that everyone's like, the script is like the strength here.
Hell yeah.
And then getting someone like Cooper to work on it. Because he's written a lot of his stuff. He wrote this movie, this adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
But like he's also co-written a lot of stuff. And I don't want to all just like knock it that he's the problem in the way in like the writing.
Right.
Like, because I don't know if I truly believe that. It's also, after a while, it's kind of like, maybe it doesn't work for me, because like it does work for a lot of people.
Sure.
People do still like his movies, and some people probably like them more than I do.
It's like there's so much potential here for it to easily be a 90% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
But it just so obviously sits at 69, 72.
It makes sense to me.
It makes sense why it's there.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
even though I stand up for him, because I'm kind of like, I want to see his 90% Rotten Tomatoes film. I want to see his critically acclaimed movie.
Because he seems like such a nerd.
I still don't know anything about Crazy Heart, okay?
That's such a good job.
Yeah, so that's really good. You're way better at it than I am.
I nerded out with this one. I just wanted to read about like how he got like decided what the set should be and why it should be this color and why it should be this lighting. And there's one thing where he talks about how they looked at Hudson River School of Paintings.
Yeah.
Just like research where for the interiors we looked at Dutch masters Rembrandt.
Yeah.
Okay, nerd.
Yeah.
We looked at Barry Lyndon, the film.
Well, fucking who doesn't, man?
Which like
you're the only person on earth who's like, nah, Barry Lyndon.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, you
but
suck.
I watched you watch it for 4 hours on a plane
and
ride.
I was doing my cinema pose the entire time, in which I rest my chin in both my hands and put my fingers to my lips. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's because Barry Lyndon is the thing. Okay. The thing about Barry Lyndon, which is like, I'm not an expert on it, even though I have spent the requisite 7 hours watching it. The thing that I think people gravitate towards about Barry Lyndon was like, in a time when they were shooting on film, Barry Lyndon uses like entirely natural light. That was something that's really hard to capture enough light to actually light the scene. But Kubrick, being Kubrick, he created the movie by using only natural light, basically.
My God.
Which for cinematographers, they're all nerd film school cinematographers are constantly Jing their D's to Barry Lyndon because of that. And the other thing too that's very well known about Barry Lyndon was Kubrick did the same thing where he would just look at paintings and create scenes that completely echo the paintings. And Kubrick is like, the stereotype of Kubrick is he's like an extremely detailed guy.
Yeah. But
he's also very talented, and he would make these scenes that are referencing these paintings, essentially. So even when I watch it, one thing that's like great, the slowness of Barry Lyndon works because when you know that, when you're like, oh, this is probably like in reference to this work of art, you have time to look at the entire frame.
Yeah.
Instead of it just like cutting. Like there's so much in Barry Lyndon that's like they'll have like the camera just close on someone and then they'll just pull back as the scene progresses, and then you get to see the whole thing slowly emerge, right?
Yeah.
And I can see now when you say that about him referencing this movie, it's like that's like a very good influence. Like that makes
so
perfect
beautiful.
sense. Yeah.
Like every scene of painting, quite literally.
Yeah. And then also there's a key plot point that has to do with a painting.
Yeah.
Which, do you know if that painting is a real thing?
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I would like to know because it's a cool painting. But the witch hunter, what's his name, is painted on the guy's wall.
Oh, shit.
Which I have to say, having seen this movie twice, that little twist sort of is like very obvious because he looks at the painting in the book and then it's like on this guy's wall and you're like, wait, I just saw that like 15 minutes ago. Yeah. And
see, stuff like that is where you're like, I wish there was a little bit more intrigue, or I wish you thought the audience was a little bit smarter that they would figure it out.
I didn't catch it the first time, I will say.
Fair.
But
that's just because it was dark.
The movie in its reveal is where it falls apart, in my opinion. Everything leading up to the reveal of the double reveal of what has happened works for me. But it's in the quote unquote twist endings that it doesn't work for me. And
a lot of the audience feel the same way.
I think so. I think I even felt this time around at the part where and we'll talk about this later, but when they start to do the ritual on Edgar Allan Poe, I was like, this is where the movie starts to fall apart.
I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
And we'll get into more. But do you have more nerd shit to talk about?
Well, just like...
Why are you so into films? It's so crazy.
It's so cute because we're big fans of, the Sleepy Hollow genre. We love a From Hell-esque film, and then this like just falls right into the category of like...
Can I point out a comparison between this movie and From Hell?
Yeah.
They're both films that I want to see the version that works really well. Because the version that works really well would be a brilliant film.
Hell yeah.
I think From Hell has like huge problems, but you're like, man, just there's with an extra 20%, it could be like amazing. And this movie is better, but it's also like, man, this movie could be fucking brilliant.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I want it. That's why I like those movies, because you're just kind of like, oh, I dream of a world where that is. But then again, it makes it interesting to think about.
Yeah. It's also like an adaptation of a book, a Louis Bayard book. Sorry if I'm butchering his name, but Scott Cooper got the book from his dad, who's just this big book nerd, I guess.
Robert Duvall.
His dad, Robert Duvall. Yeah. His OG dad, though. Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper, yeah.
He's like, hey, look at this thing where there's like a couple of twists and such. And he's like, man, Edgar Allan Poe, who cares? And then he took it and he read it.
Sounds like me in grade 11 English.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We're both from Virginia, Scott and Poe. We're both just like, loving literature and such.
Yeah.
Also obsessed with the macabre a little bit. And he thought it was just brilliant to adapt. And immediately his mind obviously went to his bestie, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
For the role of Poe.
Bale could play an old Poe.
Bale could play an old Poe.
An older Poe.
But then just before he kind of considered making this a film and writing this into a film, he saw Buster Scruggs.
Yeah.
And he saw our boy Dudley from Harry Potter, a.k.a. Harry Melling.
He's really had a workman-like career of stuff where you're just like, I can't believe this dude started as Dudley.
I can't believe this kid is in Harry Potter.
I have to say, one thing I love about this movie is I love Harry Melling's enthusiasm.
Oh my God.
Maybe he's not doing the best performance, but his enthusiasm for the role is really good.
I fully agree that he looks like he was born to play Edgar. His bony face, kind of just like caved in cheeks, dark eyes. I don't even know if they had to do a bunch of makeup on this guy.
I have no idea. Yeah.
He just snatched. He looks ready to play Death. And Scott Cooper saw him in Buster Scruggs and immediately was like, okay, he's Poe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Batman, but
he's like, hello, Harry, do you want to play a role where you have legs and arms? And he's like, absolutely, I do.
This one time I will do it. And he, because he's a good director and a good friend, he called Christian Bale and he's like, yo, what do you think about this guy? And he's like, why look anywhere else?
Yeah.
Christian Bale was like, yeah, we have to get him, which is such a cool compliment for someone who's probably acted more than Christian Bale in his lifetime as a child. I don't know if Christian Bale's a child actor. I'm not sure. Of
course he was. He was his big breakout was Empire of the Sun with.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, he was Christian Bale, famously a child actor. Yes.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Well, then hard relate.
He's been at it for a long time. He maybe that you know what on a personal level that might be what it is, like seeing this child actor who's grown up and now Harry Melling must be in his late 20s and he's still doing it and he's like. Yeah, I don't know. He's a good
probably
actor.
like Daniel Radcliffe's age, so in early 30s.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And so, but he's not you can't even recognize him anymore. So I don't even think he
used to be a little chubber, and now he's just like this bean sprout of a man.
My God. Yeah. Well, so it wouldn't have been trouble for him to be like consider a serious actor, because look at him now acting in these like bizarre roles.
But he's also like he's the perfect role to play this like literature nerd who's also in the army and who everyone is like, you're such a weirdo, Poe, and he's like, yes, but have you ever thought of the Raven?
Oh my God.
Hey, do you want to hear my dumb thing about The Wire and Edgar Allan Poe that I was talking about?
Yeah, go on.
All right, so I've been rewatching The Wire. I love it. It's great. I've seen The Wire many times. I think it's one of my favorite shows, and they obviously talk very specifically about place names in Baltimore where Edgar Allan Poe lived.
Oh, wow.
One of the big tourist attractions in Baltimore is going to see the Edgar Allan Poe house. But in The Wire, like that area of town, they people drug deal near the house, right?
Yeah.
And so for years, they would say like down by the Poe homes, and I would be like, weird name. I don't know what that is. But when they say the Poe homes, they literally mean Edgar Allan Poe, like the neighborhood or whatever. And there's a part where one of the young drug dealers, there's a scene that opens with him being like, some fucking guy came up to me and said, where the hell is Edgar Allan Poe's house? And I said, I don't fucking know where Edgar Allan Poe's house. Get the fuck out of here unless you want to buy drugs or whatever. And I was like, oh, they mean Edgar Allan Poe.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Yeah.
No, but I guess I am too. Holy fuck.
Yeah, I should read a fucking book sometime.
Read one Poe book.
Read one book, literally. Anyway.
Ah, so cute.
You'd never think that The Wire had a reference to Edgar Allan Poe in it, but it does. Yeah. 2
equally important real accounts that seem fictional but are not.
Yeah. Similar.
Just like Poe himself.
David Simon is the Edgar Allan Poe of our time. I've always said that. Yeah.
You know what? Man, shit. I'm not going to disagree with that.
All right. Do you want to talk about the plot?
No, not just yet.
Fuck.
Okay, can you cool your tits? Because there's a lot of cool shit going on here. Scott Cooper and Christian Bale, right?
Buds for life.
Buds for life. And then whenever they decided whoever's going to be Poe ended up being Harry Melling, it's so cool to me that Poe has just become this fictional character, like Shakespeare, kind of. We're talking about Romeo and Juliet today.
Yeah.
And Shakespeare is kind of seen as a comic book guy. Maybe.
But a little bit like this movie is akin to something like Shakespeare in Love, where you're doing a fictionalized thing with a true person, right?
Yeah. And it's so cool to see that it's not even just novels or books or anything anymore. He could just be a guy that's made up, even though he's very real. And for me, it's hard to distinguish between a fictional Poe, like in Pale Blue Eye, and a real man who wrote words and stuff.
Like his legend has...
He is legend, kind of?
A little bit, yeah. He is as much his work as his work is him, kind of.
Yeah.
Instead of like... Yeah, because he's one of those kind of like H.P. Lovecraft where you never really think of like Poe as the writer. You think of him as the work.
Yes.
And yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's why I was like, when you're like, what is this movie about? And I said, it feels like Edgar Allan Poe origin story.
Yeah.
In its way, I've never heard a concept where Poe is introduced in life and work. And this is the only time.
Yeah, like I didn't know anything about him.
I didn't know anything about him. Yeah.
And yeah, it reminds me of this book. This like I don't even remember the name. This is a random book where it's very similar, and I think it was written around the same time, where it must have been like a trend, I don't know, among writers, which I think if you do it well, all the power to you. Like if you can do it well, that's totally fine. But like it was this book about where like Freud was a character in it, but it wasn't based on anything real. It was like a murder mystery in which Freud was a supporting character.
Oh yeah, yeah. Is it Holt? Is it that actor, Nicholas?
No, it's not. Different. It's nothing recent. I read it when I was like a teenager.
Oh, okay.
And it just it reminded me of that, where like I think someone bought it for me as a gift, and of course I read it because I just read books like that. I'm just
fun.
Fucking knocking out books
fuck.
like just never about Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
But it's a weird genre of historical fiction in which like not just like like lots of historical fiction is like, yes, real characters might pop in and out, but then some just involve one historical person so closely.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like so much more than a murder mystery. It's also a father-son love story. A Pale Blue Eye. I mean, it's also
that's the most emotionally satisfying part of it, is like when Poe, like you realize he sees him as a father figure, which it's not hammered enough throughout the movie.
No.
Yeah.
Not until they part ways towards the end, where I was like, why didn't you guys dig into this for the first hour of the film?
Which the thing I think maybe it's lacking, and it's like, I know it's pointless to like criticize the movie's already made, but like maybe it's so funny because the resolution of the mystery is about a father's inability to care for his daughter.
Yeah.
And there's like a comparison there that I don't think is quite connected, that like that theme should affect Poe more because he doesn't have a father and he sees Bale as a father and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like the doctor, his inability to help his daughter who's having the seizures, not to mention Christian Bale's incapableness of helping his daughter who was sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like an interesting thing that they just never quite get there.
Man.
And then there's Duvall, who is kind of a father figure to Bale.
Yes.
And I don't know. They should have hit that stuff a little harder.
So many daddies in this film.
Yeah.
And yet, the girl who plays Christian Bale's daughter,
Maddie.
she killed it. She did such a good job.
She's got like 2 lines.
She's got 2 lines.
I think she was good.
And she's so emotive and just, and you have to, for all these people like Harry Melling, Christian Bale's daughter, to hold their own in a scene next to Christian Bale. And you don't really kind of care for Batman at that point. You're just kind of.
I have to say though, Charlotte Gainsbourg does kind of feel like,
oh my
like
God.
they were like Scott Cooper and Christian Bale, like we have to get Harry Melling. The movie can't work without Harry Melling. And they're like, what about this woman? And he's like, Christian Bale's like, let me call someone I know. Charlotte, will you do this? And she's like, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Charlotte. And
you
then
have to smile one time, if I must.
She's not bad. She's just she's really overqualified for this what she's
100%.
doing in this movie.
There's too many big names in this.
I think I know.
Gillian Anderson.
Oh,
Shorty, what you doing?
When fucking Dana Scully shows up, and you're like, whoa,
what the?
Whoa, what are you doing?
Scully looking like a psycho babe.
And then Robbie from Industry. Lucy Boynton plays the daughter. And then Peter Pettigrew.
Oh, lots of Harry Potter's gang in here.
Yeah. We have decided not to use any of their real names.
No, it's all good.
Only the characters that we know them as. And then the other guy, the second in command, he's a recognizable like British actor.
Yes.
And then this is the second movie in a row we've done with Baz from
oh my gosh,
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Who plays the dog? He's really good in this though too.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the plot? Are you done?
You
done with your shit?
Oh, what the fuck?
No, I'm just kidding. Set in 1830 New York, as we established earlier, at the like Hudson River Military fucking Academy or some shit. We open with Christian Bale, who's down by the river. He's doing something, and this comes up later as it's part of the twist ending. Spoil that now, but it's part of the twist is what he's doing. And someone approaches him, one of the commanders of the military college, and like, someone's been murdered.
Yeah.
Or they were hung, but we think they've been murdered, but they were hung too. And we need a retired detective because you're quite a beast on the force out there. And he's like, we need someone to solve this mystery for us.
We need Batman.
And Christian Bale is like, I don't know, my daughter recently run off. I'm not super stoked about working right now. And I was like, hard relate. I agree.
Yeah.
And but he goes and he reluctantly goes anyway to do this. And he finds that Fry, that's the guy's name, Leroy Fry. He's been hung and he's had his heart cut out.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that it was not just like a regular murder, but also
I also like
kind
that
of a kooky murder.
The resolution is weirder than you'd think.
Yeah.
And it only kind of works, but I do kind of like it.
Yeah.
And he finds a little piece of paper in his hand that was torn off from a note. Poe approaches him in the pub. Poe is a cadet at this academy, and he says that whoever did this was a poet, which is, you know,
as you know it.
yeah. Much like, and Poe is like, it's because I'm a poet.
It's a poetic film.
Yeah, and then they skip off lovingly to Baltimore to be part of The Wire 100 years later. Yeah. So he basically he enlists Poe to help him because he's close to all the rest of the cadets and stuff like that. Poe, with his brilliance, figures out that the note was summoning him to like a secret meeting. Now,
it was like a torn piece of paper.
Little torn piece of paper.
And he figured out a whole note.
Like he kind of does a Zodiac style handwriting analysis.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. Okay. Bale is like, I know basically I can figure out where it happened. And they go to the ice house, which is like the scene of the crime. There's some Wiccan ass shit happening on the floor. And he's like, this is probably where it happened. At least this is where the heart was removed because it had to be transported with ice. Right. When Bale writes the note, this becomes a clue later, is that his handwriting, he says, take courage, which happens to have all of the letters that are in the fragment of the note. Yeah. I noticed that
scene one.
When I first watched it, I was like, their handwriting looks very similar.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the clue is so obvious because the way he writes take courage is like gigantic on this page, and you're just kind of like, yeah. And then when at the end when he brings it up, I was like, oh yeah, and I fucking saw that.
I
knew
know.
it. Yeah.
You do forget it over the course of the film, but I wish they hadn't shown us Christian Bale's handwriting that early on. If he had just said the words "take courage" or whatever, and they don't show the audience what his letters look like.
Yeah, like I don't know how you could hide it a little better, but I did notice the first time that it's like meaningful, or else they would never have written it that way. But
totally.
That's okay. It's not like the worst
And
thing.
because we're such good Sherlocks, we cracked it in like 5 minutes.
Like you said, though, you forget about it over the course of the movie. They, like a cow and a sheep, are murdered and mutilated. Murdered.
Not the sheep murders.
Call it the SPCA. This cow has been murdered. Close off the scene. Nobody touches the scene of the crime.
Tis sacred.
It's been ground into beef.
No.
Bale is like, it could have to do with black magic. In the meantime, Poe meets Lucy Boynton's character, who is this young woman, the daughter of the doctor of the academy, who's also helping with all the they cut his heart out stuff. And she has like these seizures.
Yeah, she's got a fainting
She's very
spell.
sick, but she's also a brilliant pianist.
Yeah.
And Poe becomes like infatuated with her.
Mm-hmm.
They begin to kind of suspect that the doctor's family is involved in this. Poe and Bale simultaneously, which Poe is like, well, I'm close with the daughter, so we can probably get closer to them.
It's cute when they try to give us little glimpses into Poe's life where he asks her out.
Yeah.
And she's obviously used to being accosted by these high society men. And she's like, well, I suppose, where are you going to take me? To the garden? And he's like, no, I was thinking the cemetery. And she's like, oh my God.
Then she has a
so emo
fucking
of you.
seizure.
She fucking loves it, though.
She just loves it so much she has a seizure.
Yeah.
Her brother is Robbie from Industry, an actor whose name I don't know, but who is a fucking great actor. And Industry is a fucking great show.
Everybody watch Industry right now.
Industry is so good. And then another one of the friends, Ballinger, is in love with Leah.
Yes.
And he attacks Poe, and Christian Bale fights him off.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of like, could Ballinger have been involved? There's some suspicion on him. Mm-hmm. And then Ballinger goes missing, and then they find him with his heart cut out, hung, heart cut out, genitals cut off.
My God. Like in
Real
a more gruesome way than any other murder so far.
Yeah, it's rough. However, the doctor determines that clearly someone different cut the heart out of this person than the first one, which is conveniently not addressed until the end. And we find out why. A third cadet, he disappears, but he seems to have run off, essentially. They have dinner with the doctor and the family. It goes really well. Gillian Anderson is just really chill and cool about everything.
Oh, the first time they introduce her, close up on her face, dressed in this weird Victorian outfit.
She's so like wide-eyed and crazy. But then that dinner scene is one of the more awkward dinner scenes in the world.
It's like the Hereditary scene with the mom when she gets angry and ragey.
Yeah.
Toni Collette. She really cranks up the Collette on this one, dude.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And essentially what happens is they kidnap Poe, Leah, Robbie, and Gillian Anderson to do this ritual. They've resorted to black magic to help Leah's seizures.
Yeah.
And the doctor is complicit in, even though he doesn't take part in the ritual. But Bale solves this through the Merkin book.
Through the pubes book.
The
book of pubes / witches.
Yeah, so to go a little backwards, like he consults Duvall, who's like an occult, who knows about the occult and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he says like this Spanish guy was like hardcore into burning witches back in the day. He wrote this book. But the real fucking witch killing king is this French dude whose book is missing. Bale sees the book, and it's a furry book. Yes, it's a furry pube book in the doctor's library, and recognizes the painting of the same man, seeing that the family was descended from this French guy. And he's like, doctor, what have you done? And the doctor's like, I couldn't help her with doctoring. Yeah. So we resorted to black magic, though I didn't know it would go this far. Bale interrupts this ritual, and the ice house lights on fire, killing Robbie and Leah as a beam falls on them, which is pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
I have to say,
I think that's the CG part with the fire.
Definitely.
But yeah,
I have to say, like, this is the part in the movie where it starts to be, I'm like, this, it's not great.
I know.
However, I really, again, this speaks to Scott Cooper in what he's good at. The imagery of Lucy Boynton with the blood streak on her face is like, it's some real cool
powerful
horror shit.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like really, and she's quite good in this movie. And like, that stuff is like really interesting, you know?
You know what I wanted that scene to become instead was something like the start of Northman, where Willem Dafoe is doing like weird witchcraft in a cave.
Yeah.
Or something like, you know, the movie Witch with the 2 V's, the Vivitch.
The Vivitch. Yeah.
Where
those are directed by the same guy, you know?
Oh shit. Dude, you fucking go
No,
on.
they are.
Are they?
Yeah, Robert Eggers.
Oh,
That's
shit.
why I thought you brought them up.
Oh, fuck, right. Oh, God. Unbeknownst to me, I am just a wonderful observation. Okay. Yeah. but such good, like, nuanced take on witchcraft where you're, like, not sure if that person's crazy or is it the supernatural. Yeah. That's the line that Scott Cooper could have gone into and kind of left it to the audience where, like, maybe it's a little bit of both.
Instead, they're just kind of crazy.
Crazy.
So Bale rescues Poe and Gillian Anderson. Gillian Anderson gets arrested. Yeah. Poe is like, oh, my lady who I was definitely in love with tried to kill me, but it sucks that because I kind of loved her too.
I loved her so much. You wanted to sacrifice and cut my heart out, but I love her.
And, you know, presumably, you know, mystery solved, right?
Yeah.
There's still like 20 minutes of the movie left. See, this is where it starts to get difficult, is where I don't love, you know, that.
Because when they solve the crime, it doesn't feel like, oh, wow, they're getting close to solving it. It's just like, why is this happening?
You know what the problem is? Which I think is a problem with, I cannot write mystery stuff for shit. So I recognize how difficult it is. But I think one of the problems with this and a lot of unsatisfactory mysteries is oftentimes it's like they're not raising enough suspects. Like this movie starts to kind of like, it's like most of the time you're just kind of like, well, I have no fucking idea who this is.
Yeah.
As a viewer. Yeah. And so there's no point in me trying to think about it. I'm just going to wait till it's solved. Mm-hmm. The movie doesn't raise enough, like, it just kind of, there's long periods in the movie where you're just kind of like, who the fuck could it be? Like, no one knows.
Yeah.
And it's not clear enough who is suspected, right?
They don't set it up enough with like a Murder on the Orient style, which they should have. They should
it's a better, the thing is like, this movie is a better kind of like thriller horror than mystery, but it needs more mystery to be a better movie, unfortunately.
Especially on screen. I'm not sure how the book is, and I know it's a little bit of a departure from the book, but
the book has a cover covered entirely in merkins. Yeah, pubes. Like human pube wigs. Yeah, which is why it wasn't a big hit, but you know.
There's a little thing with when he talks about like Scott Cooper's like there's a difference between the novel and the film, and that so often there are things you have to excise from a novel, certainly as sprawling as The Pale Blue Eye, and you just have to focus the narrative. So for Scott, he wanted it to be the things where it's like, it's got to be a whodunit. It's got to be a relationship between a father-son, Christian Bale Poe, and then it's got to sort of look cool as shit.
Thus is the problem of like adaptation, right? Is I'm sure the book is much long.
So we assume that that's why Edgar Allan Poe becomes Edgar Allan Poe, because he witnessed this terrible fucking thing.
Yes.
He almost gets sacrificed. He's already obsessed with the occult, and then he becomes this prolific writer.
Yeah, and it's as you said about the origin story thing, is like he experiences this loss in conjunction with his interest in the occult and the macabre, that, you know,
that is interesting. It's so nice a take.
But not only does he experience the loss of Leah, he experiences the loss of his potential father figure too. Because as we go on, Poe has also figured out that he found out what really happened with Bale's daughter. She did not run off. She committed suicide. Mm-hmm. She committed suicide because she was sexually assaulted by 3 of the cadets on her way back from this ball. Ballinger, who was killed, Fry, who was killed, and Stoddard, who ran off. Mm-hmm. And Bale had killed Fry the night before, but was interrupted from hanging Fry.
Right.
And in the morning, he's washing this thing he used to beat Fry to death in the river. And at the same time, coincidentally, Gillian Anderson, Leah and Robbie are looking for a heart. Yeah. And they come across.
Perfect.
And Robbie has impersonated an officer to get to the body to take the heart out, which is just a wild coincidence, but it happens.
Yeah.
And then
so Christian Bale gets away with the murder.
Yeah, and Bale sees it as a way to cover up what's happening, and then also kills Ballinger to further cover up his own crime.
all the men who assaulted his daughter, he's able to now go and murder them.
And then Stoppard has run off, and he says he doesn't have the energy, but I hope he's looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life, which I think is like a very good
fantastic
line. And like he's like Bale's such a good fucking actor. Like even the grief in this part is all like
brilliant.
It's really good.
So good.
And then but Poe has figured it all out. He's solved this all. And he says like I have enough that you would go to the gallows for this, but instead he burns the evidence in front of Bale and says, I wish you were my dad.
Oh my God.
And Bale says, I wish you had been my son too.
Well, that lead up to that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It got me. Like I was like, oh my God, I wish you guys were father and son.
I think it's a really good moment.
Beautifully done. Because when Christian Bale's like, I wish that night my daughter Leah had run into
met you
instead.
Very
and that
sweet.
way perhaps we could have been a family. And it's like,
yeah,
Batman, stop.
That's probably one of the better emotional moments is
I think that might be the only emotional moment.
I think because like the irony of him wanting to murder these cadets and probably being kind of down on the military as a leaders of men, and then he meets this young man who he takes an affinity to is very beautiful. And then in the end we see Bale on the cliff edge and he lets the ribbon go into the wind.
Yeah.
And,
so we don't know. It ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, which is good. I don't want to see whether that happens or not.
So second watch, much better film. First watch, you might dip out.
It's all right. Yeah.
It's all right.
But overall, it's a good fucking movie.
Yeah.
Scott,
call us, my guy. Let's get dinner.
Yeah, I want to be the Robert Duvall too.
He's welcome to our dinner table with, the others who were also invited.
I have to say, like, even though the movie is not perfect in this at the end, I do really like. I love the like explanation scene.
Me too.
You know, despite my dislike of the film Saltburn, which didn't need an explanation scene.
But it has like a 40-minute long explanation.
I like when movies... No, but Saltburn is like, yeah, I know that all of this happened. Like, you don't have to tell me all that. I know because I watched your film. But like when movies do that like wrap up, I have to say, like in the Harry Potter novels, this is one of my favorite things is when they do the like 100-page explanation of everything that happened. I'm like, yeah, this is the best part of the fucking books.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. See, but they are so good at never revealing who the villain is. When Scott Cooper works with all these cinematographers of different films, I recently saw Antlers, and the guy who was his photographer on that movie, Florian Hofmeister, he shot Tar.
And Florian Hofmeister is like one of the most, like he's a big deal. Yeah. The weird thing is like
Stunning.
Scott Cooper makes like incredible movies, but with The Pale Blue Eye, it's like someone I've never heard of, not to impugn on their talent, but like you could easily believe it was beautiful. Like one of the a cinematographer you would know. And
I thought Antlers, because Scott Cooper, then Pale Blue Eye was also Hofmeister, but wasn't. No. Damn. And I don't know if he got nominated for Tar or not, but
he did.
He did. Oh, how
I
well deserved.
believe I predicted him to win, and he did not win. I don't think.
Oh shit!
Because people were like, "I think Lydia Tar is a bad person."
Yeah, but look how good she looks on camera, guys. That angle.
Yeah, that Tar is shot like incredibly. Oh. It's so funny because like in comparison, like Antlers is so stylistic, and Tar is so anti-stylistic in a way, but that's what makes it so brilliant. And but then like with Antlers you have so much like dread style on
so
camera,
moody, so dark
and so moody and atmospheric, and then Tar is like just like brilliant looking as like a real film. Yeah, there's like
the house that she lives in is like any angle you pick, it feels like a different world altogether. So even that is very cleverly shot.
Yeah.
And having her like stand in the hallway looking like a ghoul. Perfect. Excellent. Is it a horror? Is it drama? Why not both? Pale Blue Eye. Excellent watch on a rainy day.
Yeah.
Just you got popcorn. You can just sit back.
It's like good, like grim macabre kind of. Watch it with Sleepy Hollow. It's a very similar vibe.
Oh, hell yeah.
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 Is that it?
Good job, Koopy.
All right. Thank you for listening. Jeff Bridges. Crazy Heart.
Sorry. Oh my God, Jeff, what are you doing here?
Thank you for listening to the podcast. My heart's so crazy.
Bye.
I want Academy Award. It's crazy. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.